have been around only for a few years, and they're somewhat emblematic. Whether we're really in first mover kind of position at the moment. And the reason why eMarketing is popularly accepted principally by students is that most of our colleagues aren't using these techniques and they're ignorant of them, and subsequently students think, oh, this must be, some sort of a high art. What would you say to that statement?
Yeah, that's entirely possible, especially when you're looking at things like audio feedback. Maybe it is a first mover effect or the Hawthorne effect. Maybe. But, I'll work with whatever I can. If that is the impact, if it does result in students being able to look at that feedback and do something with it, I'll take that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I find that I get no negative responses these days when I use the word processor and use these tools for marking.
Keith, you've got your hand up. How can we help you?
I guess, as James has said, some of this is very new, and I'm just wondering how rapidly other people are going to take up doing this sort of thing, or is it something that's just going to be a few people are going to do it, and so there's going to be the advantage to the students from those, and those staff will get the advantage in terms of being able to do things more quickly, but other people are just going to continue doing things the way they've been doing them for the last 3, 5, 10 years?
I think there'll always be some people that will do that. Certainly, my experience has been that individuals may pick up these tools, but fairly quickly it spreads to their colleagues because they can start to share comment banks. So you might have a school of economics within a business faculty, and a certain number of the comments that school uses are going to be similar, and they will get economies of scale if the same comments are being presented to students. There's nothing worse than talking to a psychology student who comments about how her first year lecturer interpreted the APA in a particular way, and their second year interpreted the APA format in another way.
Yeah, I've encountered that too. So that's a good point. Where if you've got some more consistency in the comments that are going out, it will actually reduce some of the frustration that students experience when they get that sort of thing from staff in different subjects or units.
Yeah, and that also becomes a pull factor because the academic that may not have wanted to do the eMarking, they can say, oh, if I start doing eMarking, I'm going to be able to get all of these comments from my colleagues. So it becomes a push and a pull. And yeah, it would be great to see some of these things going viral. Yeah, James, your comments are correct. If we're using new tools to just produce the same awful comments that are going back to students, then we're not really achieving a lot. I noticed that there's a speaker coming up in a couple of weeks talking about the quality of the feedback that is going back to people as well. So we need to look at the making sure that our feedback is best practice in that way. And Matthew made the comment about green initiatives. Yeah, if we could stop making use of printing and postage, yeah, that has a major green impact. Jeff, you've got a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to say at the University of Adelaide here, we're certainly having discussions at the moment across our ITS and University Learning Teach Committee groups about this whole issue of cutting down on the printing of paper across the university, both from the cost, just the raw cost of actually printing out so many of these things. And we're looking at the different options for moving over to online marking. So that's obviously, we have a really vested interest in looking at the different tools that are available there. So from that perspective, I've been really pleased, not only through the Transforming Assessment project, but also from my substantive work here at the university, to look at these different options that we have, because we certainly have to have something that academics are going to find relatively straightforward to use. We know that there's going to have to be a whole lot of retraining and upskilling of academics to use some of these tools that are available. But what we're probably going to do is to trial some of these things in particular areas, and then get the academic staff to be the ones to talk to their colleagues about whether this worked or not, because we find that that's obviously a much better way of doing this than someone from an academic development centre telling everyone how wonderful these things are.
Absolutely. Keith, you've got another comment.
Yeah, I don't want to try and monopolise. What Jeffrey said there, I think, is really important, because now I'm an academic, but I've been involved recently in trying to get some people doing newer things, and there's quite commonly a reluctance to get involved or to think about the time that's involved, or I don't want to do the training, I can't do the training. So Jeff's sort of getting the academics themselves to push it amongst themselves is something I see is actually probably the way to go.
Absolutely. And I think we need to make sure that the innovations that we've got, some of them are bold innovations, but others can be incremental innovations that people that don't have a big barrier to the adoption. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I've used Microsoft Word as the platform. It's out there. And that's got nothing to do with liking Microsoft or the value of open source software. It's just a fact that Microsoft Word is a tool that is commonly used. Yes, James?
Yeah, just to come back on those points, I think that one of the things that I'm worried about with interventions is that the intervention doesn't become an intrusion, and it's often hard to get colleagues to convert to anything that's new or innovative. But I guess if we come back to the point that you made about pull, if it is that we can demonstrate best practice, I've been hammering the keyboard about that, and get exemplars, not to mention a few cost-effective studies going in there, people will eventually win. But you're right, the institution will have to bite the bullet sooner or later and provide some kind of preliminary training, at least beyond awareness raising, because this is a very important interface, the feedback interface, and the assessment interface with students. If we get this wrong, we basically, it's time to shut up shop and go home, I'd say.
Well, I'm certainly talking to a couple of quality arms within different universities that are very intrigued by the process of being able to just have a very an eyeball look over what feedback is going back to students. They're very interested in that. Of course, that's a political minefield, but that's for someone else to be concerned about. But they're quite interested in that point of view.
Yeah, I concur. Well, I guess one of the interesting developments that's been happening in recent times is the proclamation of graduate attributes, and how universities are now looking at what it is they're doing in terms of their packaging their courses, laying the wherewithal for people to come through the university experience and go out with certain attributes. And I guess academics are going to be held accountable as to how they manage the quality process and what they do to buy into the various schemes to ensure that there is a quality outcome and a win-win situation for all concerned.